I'm Howard Griggs, and my son Jeff Griggs and I restored this car over the past 5.5 years. Jeff is a director of ebook production children's division for Penguin Random House in New York City. But he has come through, his girlfriend let him come home one weekend a month for 5.5 years, and we have taken this vehicle from that junk that you see down there to what it is today. And yes, we've had some professionals involved. We had the engine was professionally rebuilt. The body work and paint job was done professionally because we don't have the facilities to do that kind of work. But then after we got the body back, we've been disassembled it and put it back together. But then we had to rebuild the roof, which is all kiln-dried red oak we got from Lewis Lumber out in Picture Rocks, PA. And we had upholstery work done by an Amish gentleman down in Christiana, PA. And but it's been so much fun that Jeff and I have accomplished this. And it's not a we've had some very good fortune. Every time we've shown it, people have really admired it. The first time out was this show a year ago, where we were awarded the Chrysler Award, sponsored by the Passeri family. And then we took this to the AACA show up in Hartford on Labor Day, and there's a gentleman by the name of Bob, Jeepers escapes me right now, but he was going to do an article on it for Old Cars Weekly. We took it to Hershey and we got our first junior award, and then this spring we took it to Gettysburg and we got our first senior award, and that's evidenced by the plaques on the front there. But the car is it's very difficult, or I won't say difficult, it's challenging to drive, because it does not have hydraulic brakes. It has mechanical brakes on the rear axle only. So when you apply the foot brake, shoes compress around a drum, and when you apply the emergency brake, shoes expand on the inside of that same drum. So, and it's not the most powerful car in the world. When you see a long hill coming, you just hope that you can climb up it. And when you see a steep grade going down, you better get down in second gear, because stopping is an issue. But yet it truly is a lot of fun. And without my son Jeff and I working it together, they say, what's that worth? It was priceless to have my son and I work on this. So, anything else you'd like me to say, sir?
Anything on the engine, or take a quick look at the brakes there.
Okay, all right. The engine is a 4-cylinder engine. It develops about 24 horsepower, and it has a coil, which is that coil we just obtained not too long ago. It is an original coil for this era car. It is the car, of course, is a 1921, so it's about a 100-year-old coil, and it came brand new out of a box. It was just an amazing thing to get that coil. But these are interesting. You don't see them on every engine. They are called priming cups. And in days gone by, when you wanted to start this engine, if it was really cold, I suppose you could put a few drops of gasoline in there, and you get that gasoline directly into the cylinders, close them up, and then fire away. And this particular car has a 12-volt. Now, mind you, it's a 1921 car, but it has a 12-volt starter generator that you'd see on the other side, and that's very. People say, well, 12-volt. Don't all cars? No, the Wellard Battery Company came along in, I don't know when it was, the 30s perhaps, and they said, okay, car manufacturers, we're no longer going to make 12-volt batteries. So car manufacturers went to 6 volts at that point. They had to, because the battery companies weren't going to make 12 volts anymore. So they had no choice. So there was 6 volt. All old cars like this had 6 volt batteries, and now they have we've gone back to the 12 volt systems, but nonetheless, it's a 12 volt system here. And I could tell you about the fuel system on the other side if you'd like to go there. So the fuel tank in this vehicle is under the seat, and this is a vacuum tank fuel pump. When the engine is turning, of course, it even if it's not started, it's creating a vacuum. The vacuum pulls the gas from the tank under the seat into this reservoir, and then from the reservoir the gas flows down to the carburetor. And you say, well, where's the air intake on this carburetor? The air comes through the block and it goes in the other side of this carburetor. But this is the 12 volt starter generator that I mentioned before, and of course this I don't know what they're my son and I, when we were doing restoration, we had to cover our floorboards with new linoleum, and a very challenging thing for us is that we had to learn how to bend the aluminum angle in those circles to fit around different things. That was a challenge. The nickel plated knob on the toe board is actually a grease supply system for the throwout bearing. The manual for this will tell you every 100 miles give that a turn, and that puts grease in the throwout bearing that operates the clutch. Of course, this car has the usual throttle and spark controls on the steering quadrant there. And let's see what else you'd like to know about this vehicle. There are some tools back here which are perhaps not totally appropriate for this vehicle, but yet they are of that era, and you can see that there is a crank for it, even though Jeff and I have never had to use it much except when we were first starting the engine. But the grease gun is a Alamite fitting. The jack is of this era, and the pliers have one handle of the pliers is ground as it would be useful for as a screwdriver too, you see. So, and some interesting things about it. There are roll down screens front and back and on the doors. The horn button on this vehicle is on the door. The reason it's on the door of the driver's side is so that you could keep both hands on the wheel and bump the horn button with your knee. So the steering or the shift pattern is different than a lot of them are at that point. First is up there, reverse is back here, second is here, and high is there. And that's I guess maybe there are the most unique things. This vehicle, they manufactured, even though they reduced their workforce to only 4,000 employees. The Dodge brothers passed away. One of them in 1920, both of them in 1920. But in spite of that, and with their reduced workforce, they still cranked out about 81,000 vehicles that year. And so the Dodge Brothers Corporation was a very was a very viable corporation in those days, and a reliable vehicle. Dodge ambulances were used extensively for the military, and they're just they were a true workhorse. And Dodge, by the way, made engines for Henry Ford at one point or another. So people look at it and they say, the Screenside looks like you could carry criminals around in it, or you catch dogs and put them in there. And well, it was to prevent packages from falling out, because it was used by rural mail carriers, and it was used by farmers, and so the screens just kept the cargo from falling out, So that's the story of our 1921 Dodge Brothers Screenside commercial car.